Hey guys, welcome back to the shack. Today I'm going to do a new machine that it's not my typical machine, not typically what I go for, but the company reached out to me, wanted me to try it out. I've liked some of their other machines, their other products, so I figured I'd give it a try. And this is probably the smallest and lightest laser I have ever tested here in the shack, but it's got some pretty unique features, and I have discovered a few things about it that might make it interesting for some of you, especially if you're just getting into lasers and you're just trying to learn the software and learn how to do things. So the fact that it's so small, but it operates like one of the bigger machines, I think makes it a good learning machine as far as learning the processes, the procedures. And with the 10-watt module, which is what I've got, it's doing a pretty good job. So if you want to see what it's capable of and the things that I found about it, stick around. We'll be right back. All right, guys, so unlike normally where I'm having to lean over the table to show you the laser, I'm going to bring this guy up here to show you. Basically, what we're working with here is the same type module as what everybody's accustomed to. And inside here, I don't know how well you can see it, but inside here is basically a 2020 extrusion and another piece of 2040 extrusion, and they've got like a little two-axis setup made. It does use the concentric wheels, and just a little quick disclaimer, guys, if you get one of these, you may want to go over it and just double check the concentric wheels on it, because mine, when I got it, it was a little bit out of adjustment. That's easy enough to adjust. They include the wrench and everything in the little toolkit that comes with the machine, and you just want to adjust that to where the wheel will not turn without actually moving the axis, but it's not so hard. You want just at that point to where when you turn the wheel, it will not turn independent of the bar that it rides on. Okay, so I will tell you this before you ask, it does have like a pass-through here at the bottom. So if you've got some little small engraves, it's on a bigger piece of material and you want to engrave it, as long as you can do it with the 130 by 130, which I'm going to recommend sticking around 120 by 120 just to give yourself a little bump for those limit switches. I never like getting that close to the limit switches. So about a 120 by 120 graphic is very doable. You can set the focus to below the machine, the surface level that it's sitting on. So that's pretty handy. And this is all you got, guys. Like seriously, it's like 10 pounds and it's tiny. You could almost put this in a backpack and haul it around with you. But this one does come with a 10-watt module. They have 3 different variants, but guys, I'm gonna be honest with you. 10's probably the lowest module that I could see me using. It is usable, but a little slow, but it is usable to do things with. It doesn't come with a honeycomb. It comes with this little plate here that goes under the bottom of it. You can either set it under the bottom, which is what I do, or you can lay it on the top, and I prefer it being under the bottom. But if you take this out, or if you forget to put this in, you're gonna burn whatever it's sitting on, so remember that. But all in all, the controller, I have taken this thing apart a little bit, and the controller is a typical, controller that you would see on most of the Sculptfuns. It's very similar as far as the wiring and everything to like the S30 and some of the other Sculptfun machines on the market. The majority of the chassis is, and this is a little bit of a negative to me, I think they could have done a little better and made the very bottom down here, instead of making it out of plastic, I would have liked to have seen a little more metal all the way to the tabletop, but it does okay for what it is. This is a very, very budget-friendly machine. It doesn't have air assist per se, but the module has a really high-speed fan that will kind of serve as an air assist, but it doesn't live up to my expectations as far as air assist goes. But using the right settings, you can work through it, and it does a really good job, especially on engraving. Cutting, you're going to get a little bit of burn because of the lack of a really high-powered air assist, but I don't think this machine is going to be doing a lot of cutting, but it can. It cuts 1/4-inch material, which I was shocked. So, but the other thing that I had to do is, if you see right here where the cabling comes around, this is where everything plugs in, and that lid that they give you, the orange cover, goes here. Well, I kept getting the cables, kept getting stuck there, so it made me a little way to hold the cables up out of the way, and that was the only other big complaint that I had with the machine. Other than that, it does have a fan built into it, and it has this filter followed by a activated carbon filter behind there, and I've been running it 2 or 3 days playing around and cutting all matters of stuff, and it does okay at getting the smoke and stuff down. It hasn't smoked up the shop, but you're still going to smell it. It's still going to be noticeable. So just keep that in mind if you start to use this inside your house. That could possibly be something to be concerned with. So, but all in all, guys, Lightburn compatible. They also have an app that you can put on your phone. There is a wireless antenna on the machine. I haven't played with the wireless. I don't like the apps. That's just me personally. I never use those unless it's just to connect to the Wi-Fi or something. But I've been running it on Lightburn. It connects to Lightburn and operates just like any other machine in the shop. The only difference is it's 130 by 130 maxed. Like I said, I've decided to set mine to where when I'm working, I try to stay at least 10 millimeters off the rails to avoid contact with the limit switches. But through using it and through playing with it, I'm not gonna lie, guys, when they first mentioned sending it to me, I love Sculpfun. I love my S30 Ultra. I love some of their products. I wasn't a fan of this thing, even to the point to where I got it out of the box and started playing with it. I really wasn't a fan. 2 things that I will tell you that this thing does, and it does well, is it has a really fine dot. It's to be a, you know, no more support than it has with it having like that T chassis, that T frame. It's actually very accurate. I've did a lot of testing with the machine over the past few days, and like I said, I did have to adjust the concentric nuts. So if you get one and you don't have the same results, that's something that I would definitely look into, is adjusting those. But even with that, what I would consider less than desirable chassis design with the T-type frame instead of the square frame, it's holding its own. It's doing a really good job. These were adjusted by me, so that's not out of the box. Out of the box, this one had some slack in it. I did not get these results. So remember, if you don't know how to adjust the concentric nuts or test them to make sure they don't need adjusting, then learn how to do that. Only one of mine was out of adjustment, but that one had put a little bit of slack in there and was causing some issues. And this is one of the first tests that I do with the new machine, just to see if I need to do anything to it. My first results was not this good, but I went back and like I said, after I calibrated everything the way I wanted it, that's what I got. I went ahead and checked belt tension. I checked everything while I was under the hood of it. But you know, for the price, what it is, I was surprised it did this well, even after I adjusted it. So the dot size, this is not sanded or anything, guys. This is an old black and white photo of yours truly, and it does a really good job. And also, that's kind of more or less just a good solid guess on the settings, because I didn't play around with that a whole lot. So it does a really good job on photos. I've tried it with slate. I've tried it with some little MDF. Slate, it does a pretty decent job. I probably could have played with the settings and got a little better. And yes, this is a already been used coaster, guys, because those things, you know, they don't give them away. But yeah, it does do slate, and it has plenty of power to do so. I tried it on some real like 3mm MDF that came with this machine, or one of the machines that I've got, and I managed to get some decent cuts out of it. And you can see the lack of an air assist does give you some char, but it's not terrible, especially on this material here. Basswood, it came with some little coasters of 3mm basswood, and so I did also a speed test with the basswood. You can see I did get some yellowing. Mostly where it didn't cut through is where I got the yellowing. The little fan cone that they've got on there does a decent job. Cut out a couple of little small cats just to see how it does on that little piece that it leaves there, see if it scorched it or burnt it completely in two. And it didn't, which I was a little surprised on that also. So then I got out another piece of the coasters that they sent me and did me a speed and power test just to see what kind of span of colors and shades I could get. And I went a little hot because all my colors are really, really dark, but it done a really good job of engraving on the basswood. I don't do a lot with basswood. I don't do a lot with 3mm plywood, but they included these. So I figured I'd try these for some of you guys that may do 3mm material. What I was most curious to find out, because I think that this machine could possibly do a good job on because of a 10-watt diode, was to see how it would do on mirrors. So I just recently, because some of you guys have requested a 4-inch mirror design frame from me, I started doing a lot of testing on mirrors, and I tested the mirrors extensively. I will say this, I got these mirrors on Amazon, and they are not the best for engraving that I have found. They have ridges on the back for some reason with this white coating, and it makes it a little harder to engrave than the traditionally just gray, painted back mirrors. But after multiple blanks being used for testing purposes, I wound up coming up with some good settings and was able to get the results that I wanted. But the problem that I had, guys, is with this machine, it doesn't have a honeycomb. It's basically, you got this little thing that just slides around underneath it, or you put it on top of it, however you choose. So I was having a really, really terrible hard time figuring out how am I going to do a multi-layered mirror, which is something that a lot of people are interested in these days. How am I going to do that with this machine? Even though it's a 10 watt, it's a really fine point, it's really accurate so far. How am I going to do that? So y'all know how it works. I came up with basically a makeshift jig kit to use to be able to do my mirrors so that I could always be sure it was in the same location. And what I decided to do, guys, is this little pass through that they left me right there. I decided what better way to do it than to make a file for a piece of wood. Now I had to cut these with the bigger machines because of course this is bigger than the work area of the machine. But I made this, and this drops in that little hole that they left for the pass through perfectly. And then I expanded upon it. And I made, this guy, which basically has guides to hold your materials for doing the business cards, the slate and that kind of thing. And you know where it's going to be in light burn because that grid and those holes that hold those little guides right there were burned using this machine. And you can tell that because it does have a little bit of overburn from lack of air assist and using that flat panel. But once I got that working, I was like, okay, so now that I know I can have consistent results and go back to the same place because it does have limit switches, it does home consistently, time to try some mirrors. And I always like to get the mirrors up off the work surface to avoid any kind of flashback on the front because I burn from the back through. And so I created this little guy. And basically this is just a little jig modified what I've already got. And I set it to where I can put the mirrors in here and it holds them and I can go back to the same place over and over and over. And that's going to be a test and a testament to whether or not the machine can keep it zero and return to the same zero every time. So, I'm happy to announce, guys, that it was successful. This is 3 layers on a mirror, and the painted process is the same as with any other machine, guys. This is a 4-inch mirror as opposed to the 12s, the 10s, or the 8s. And I know, guys, mirrors, mirrors, mirrors. But everybody keeps asking me. Folks have been asking me that have the smaller machine similar to this one, would you make a file that we could do with ours? So, as a byproduct of me having a little machine, guys, you get this. And this is more of a desk sitting type of design. And the way that I've got it set up, I did several of them. And there's my black and white Clack Shack logo, kind of like the blinking one that you see up there. I did the same thing. Did the first layer with black, burned it, cleaned it, spray painted it black, and then went back over the white and then spray painted it white. But the cool thing about my little stands here, when I bought these mirrors, guys, they came in a huge pack. All right, so many that I knew I wasn't going to be using all of them. I had to make myself a little storage box, and I got that many left. So I come up with the idea of this would be cool for, you set this on your desk at work or in your office or on a mantle for different holidays, and then you have your mirrors. And when you do your mirrors, it's just a mirror. But you can slide this little guy down into this little display. And I got it really snug because I didn't want it to just randomly fall out. If you're concerned that it may fall out, you might want to put a little hot glue or something here on the top, or maybe something sticky on the back of your mirror. But then you put it in the display and you got yourself a little displayed mirror. You can also engrave, stain, paint, color, whatever you want to do. and it has this nice little stand-up leg that I've managed to get the angle to where it sits fairly at a pretty good angle for both a mantelpiece or a desktop. So that's what I've been playing around with the machine, guys. It's doing a really good job. And some folks had even asked me about with this machine, some of my paper crafter friends, would it do you know, heavy stock paper, construction paper, or stuff like that. So if you're into card making, like some of my May folks that watch the channel, the answer is, guys, yes, it will do craft paper. This is some lime green craft paper. Don't ask me why I picked the color. That's just the first one I came to. And you can see it will cut also, because cutting was not my intention, but I ran too much power. But we will make confetti really fast. I did do a speed test on the cutting as well. The settings will vary from paper to paper, color to color. But it also, I did a little part of my little fish that I do. And it also done a really good job with the detail on engraving on paper. And the machine too, I don't know if I showed you this, guys. This is the shield that comes with it. Now, you can use this, or you can wear glasses, or you can do both. I would recommend do both as a precaution. This would be more for people walking in, animals, cats more specifically. But it just basically slides over the front of the machine. It's not gonna 100% cover every little nook and crack. That's just the way they've got it designed. But it does a good enough job of keeping the majority of the flashback away and keeping it down. So I would still recommend wearing the glasses with it. The filters, when you buy the machine, it will come with extra filters. Now, as with any of these things, these are expendable. These are gonna go away quick, possibly. This one I've been running for 3 or 4 days. It seems to still be working with some level of success, but this is gonna be a consumable that you're gonna need to consider if you plan on using that function of the machine. If not, take it out. There's not really an output for say, where you could put a hose on here. But on the back right there, it does have the little grid, and it wouldn't be a hard task to come up with a way of attaching a hose by getting a flange or something and putting on there. But that's not the way the machine was designed to be used. This machine, like I said, it's inexpensive, it's small, it's compact, easy to put up. It works on light burn. You can't have a camera. Well, I guess you could, but without some modifications to the machine, you're not going to be using a camera, but it does frame really well. I've got mine set up to frame using the blue diode and using these jigs that I made for the machine. Once I get one framed out, if I'm doing 10, and once I get the first one framed out, then I just put the second one, I just register it on the two little fences there, and once it's on the corner of the two fences, it's very, very close to perfect. I'm not going to say it's perfect, but it's very close. Close enough that you're not going to notice it. So that's my feelings on the machine, guys. Like I said, I've been playing with it for a few days. Been pretty hard at it today with the mirrors, putting them together. This file that I built, it does require a 130 millimeter work area to cut this file, but as long as you can cut the frame out at that, you know, 100, I think it's 120 or so millimeters is where I set the threshold. So this file, the actual used part of the working space is 120 by 120 to make these guys. So if that's something you're interested in, as always, you can check out the Etsy shop. Maybe a few days before I get through getting these on there, but there is going to be available if you're interested. Little desk sitters. Like I said, I did another one right here for Valentine's Day, and I was out of red, so I used orange. But just any occasion, guys, if you're into home decor and you're like my wife and you change out your decor with the seasons, you could literally go and make whatever themed little mirror you wanted, and then you simply take this, pull the mirror out, and it's just a frame at that point, and then put the mirror back in here. Now, I used 4.5 millimeter material for these because that's what I've got. I didn't have enough 3 millimeter to do it. So I've got a little slack where the mirror slides in. If you use 3 millimeter material, which I did modify the file to work for 3 millimeter material, you wouldn't have as much space as I have, and it wouldn't be as loose going in or coming out. But it's the same file. It's just the only difference is with the 3mm file, those slots right there are wider on this file, and the tabs that are on that one are also shorter on the 3mm. But other than that, everything else is exactly the same. That's the only place I had to allow for wood differences, because it does actually have some three-dimensional functionality to it when you start putting it together. But anyway, guys, the Sculpfun, this thing is called the iCube, and you guessed it, it's because it's shaped like a cube. And like I said, it's a 10-watt diode, very small work area. But if you're somebody that's just wanting to get into the machines and learn them, it does everything that the bigger ones do, and it's a lot cheaper. It's a lot easier to put away if all you're gonna be doing small stuff. You know, if you're into, like with May doing the little small crafting paper and stuff like that, this might be all you need. So Sculpfun wanted me to show you the machine, and I had a little fun playing around with it and modifying it to suit my needs, and it did a pretty good job. So all in all, if the work area suits you, it's not the most, you know, high-end engineered machine. There is a lot of plastic. I kind of wish they'd have put a little more metal in the bottom to help support the frame, but the way they've got it engineered, it does okay. The beam is very forgiving. Even when you're engraving in this thing, you've got 1 inch of space between the module and the surface of the material. That beam is just enormous compared to what I'm used to seeing on some of the other machines. So that entails that even if the machine does move a little bit, one, the focus seems to be very forgiving, and two, the beam is so long that the module is not going to hit your material. So the little bit of variation in the pressure or the force on the front, it's not going to be that big of a deal. But anyway, I'll drop links down below, guys, if you're interested in the machine. Like I said, it's a really budget machine, but it's a really small machine. If you're doing a lot of small stuff, it might be something you want to add to your shop. Like I said, it does have the capability of engraving through the bottom. That's it for tonight, guys. I hope this helps. Like I said, if you like the files, check out the Etsy shop. And if you want to look at more about the machine, check the links down below, and I'll drop links to Sculpfun's website where you can look at it. So thanks, and until next time, have a good day.